Today we're going to talk about the First Battle of Bull Run. As we study battles throughout this unit, there'll be 5 or 6 that we're going to look at. We'll look at them very broadly. We're not going to get into the details of the fighting and the strategies and things like that. So we'll mainly take a look at the broad overview, why the battle happened, why it was important, those types of things. So the win is July 1861. This is about 3 or 4 months after Fort Sumter, which may seem like a long time, and you might ask, well, why didn't they fight immediately? Why didn't they start fighting after Fort Sumter? Neither side was prepared for battle. They needed to raise up armies, they needed equipment, they needed training. So the where is Manassas, Virginia. You'll see in just a second why it was fought there. Our setting and background is this. It was the first major battle of the war. Sumter was the first technical battle, but this was really the first major battle. The reason it was fought in Manassas was because the North was heading to Richmond to end the war quickly. Richmond, as you guys know, is the capital of the South. A lot of times in war, if one side can take over the other side's capital and conquer the city, the war could be over. So the North basically is leaving from Washington, D.C. They're heading south to Richmond, which isn't very far away. The South knows they're coming because of spies, as we talked about. I'm blanking on her first name. I think it was Rose Greenhow. So they know they're coming, so they start heading north, and they're going to clash at Richmond. I'll always tell you the generals. You're not going to need to know them, but I want you at least to see a pattern. Irwin McDowell was the main general for the North, and Robert E. Lee was the main general for the South. Get used to seeing Robert E. Lee because he's going to be the main Southern general throughout the war, and he's going to participate in most of the major battles. I also mentioned Stonewall Jackson because this is where he earns his nickname. So there's Lee, there's Stonewall, and there's McDowell. And I wrote up here he gets fired by Lincoln after Bull Run, and we're going to see a pattern emerge. Lincoln was very impatient with his generals, and after the first big battle, he's not satisfied with McDowell, so he fires him. And you're going to see this happen over and over again. Who wins? The South. The South wins, but they made a major mistake by pursuing the Northern Army. Historians look back and they say, Lee, why didn't you go after the Northern Army? This is a one-day battle. Towards the end of the day, the North knows they're losing. They start heading back to Washington, D.C. Historians say if Lee had gone after him, he could have done a lot more damage. Lee, to his defense, it was a really, really hot day. It was hot. It was humid. He said his soldiers were exhausted. They didn't have the energy to do so. Anyway, importance. Importance, when we look over the entire Civil War, this battle did not affect the outcome. But what it did is it showed both sides that this was going to be a long and difficult war. As I've mentioned several times, both sides at the beginning of the war think they're going to win, and both sides think that they're going to win quickly. Bull Run shows them this wasn't going to be the case.